R-U-L-A, marula. So M for Mike, A for Alpha, R for Romeo, U for Uniform, L for Lima, A for Alpha, marula. That's probably also very known. Any of you that have ever traveled to South Africa would almost certainly have come across Amarula, the same spelling except it's got an A in the front of it. Amarula is a liqueur which is actually quite a big export from South Africa as well. And it's very similar to Bailey's perhaps. It's a cream liqueur, but the alcohol base is made from this fruit. And it's very, very good. You can enjoy it like that, or over ice, or over ice cream even, or in your coffee. And it is a very popular thing, not only for South Africans, but also for people traveling here and taking back home as gifts or something for themselves. So that's another part where it's well known from. But now, another story that made the marula fruit and elephants as a sort of a combined story quite well known, or famous, or perhaps infamous is a different word, is where the elephants get drunk in this. Rexon touched on it this morning as well. There was a movie, and I'm not going to go into the name of the movie or the director of it now, and I don't even know all the details down to the small details of it. But in this movie, it was suggested for comedy's sake that animals eat these fruits and become very drunk on it. In other words, baboons and antelopes and elephants being a big part of it as well. And that they eat these fruits and then start falling around and behaving like a human might if the human's been drinking too much. And this is purely for comedy value in that case, or for entertainment purposes in the case of the movie. It's not something that happens in nature, and that I can say pretty much for a fact. To make this into a beer, now at the moment, if you go and travel around anywhere around here, outside in the villages, you'll find lots of marula beer. In other words, this fruit, a beer that they make from it. I don't know where to sit at the moment. And this beer is made, obviously, like all alcohols, it needs something to help it ferment. And then once it ferments for a while, it gets strong enough. The odds of the fruit just lying out here in the sun, fermenting to any degree where it has enough alcohol to make anything drunk, never mind something that weighs, in the case of this elephant, 4 or 5 or 6 tons, is very, very low. It will have to lie there for a long time. Hey, nice bit of a dusty head shake. And also these fruits are very popular, as we can see. Things are eating them all the time, whether it's elephants or baboons or monkeys, warthogs, impalas, kudus, waterbuck, pretty much everything eats these fruits. I mean, then you get your squirrels and stuff as well. Point being is that these fruits don't lie around here for days on end. They get eaten. Most of the time, even before they're fully ripe. So all those things combined makes it pretty much impossible for an elephant to get drunk on it. In the specific case of the movie that started this story, and it's a nice story. I think it's funny. I think it was well thought of. But those were back in the days when they didn't have to put disclaimers at the end of the movie, and if they had to, they wouldn't have been able to put the disclaimer that no animals were harmed in the making of this movie. They would have been unable to put that at the end of it. So therefore, it's the story that I don't mind busting the myth of a little bit, because the myth was created by pure entertainment purposes and financial benefit purposes, rather than concern for the animals that were particularly in that scene playing a role and were, well, drugged to behave like that. So, funny story, funny history, but not one that I particularly want to support, even though it is back from, I think, the 70s or something it was made. Elephants don't get drunk on marulas. They love eating them. They'll probably get a nice big vitamin C boost from it, like we would. It's got a very, very high concentration of vitamin C. This fruit has got, well, I forgot, I used to know the exact statistic, but I think 6 times or 9 times the amount of vitamin C per volume as an orange does. So very, very vitamin rich fruit. Thanks, Lieschen. No, we can still hear you fine. I think we're still close enough to camp for the radio. Yeah, okay, I agree. I think it is even better than Bailey's. It's a very, very tasty liqueur. Not very strong either. The alcohol level of it is not high at all. I think it's 12 or 14% or something. It's about the same as wine. Goes great in coffee and as I said, even as a dessert liqueur over ice cream or something. And then Joshua was asking, how's it, Joshua? What does it taste like? What I know I keep saying this, and I drove past some Marula fruits now and I forgot to pick them up. I will pick one up this afternoon. Lieschen and everyone else, please remind me. If I haven't picked a fruit up by the time we're moving along, and then please remind me from the chat rooms again. Joshua, it tastes... Well, let me ask you, what does a banana taste like? What does the apple taste like? I'd say it tastes a little bit, maybe let's start with that. Maybe it tastes a little bit like a, not the exact flavor of, but the general taste sensation of like a Granny Smith apple. It's got a little bit of a sourish taste to it. And the best time to do this would be one of the morning drives. And Joshua, if you're on a drive with us in the morning, remind me or remind any of the presenters up in the morning to maybe taste one and then explain it. Maybe that's the best way, is to explain the taste as you're tasting it. Why I say in the mornings is by now the marulas that have been lying on the ground will be very hot. They would be 35, 40 degrees plus, and that doesn't make them very tasty. It'll be like drinking a very warm glass of orange juice. It just doesn't taste nice. But early morning after the night, they're normally quite tasty because of the dew in the cooler night. But it's very pleasant taste, very sweet, with a bit of a sweet, but with a little bit of a tangy taste to it. And the texture of it it's part of the mango family. So if you imagine, well, I'll show you the fruit in a little bit, then I'll show you the texture of it and so on. But it's got a solid pip with a very sort of fleshy, slippery, sort of, I can't think of a better word than sort of, what other word can you use to describe something with a texture of like a snotty texture? Anyone has a better word than that, but it's a bit like that. But very tasty, sorry, very lekker, that's the Afrikaans word for it. Quite an interesting, maybe a bit mundane, but an interesting study for someone to do at some stage, to follow an elephant bull that lives in an area with lots of marulas and from all the dung, work out how many marulas one elephant bull can eat in a season. What would you guess, Mark? Thousands, literally, yeah?
But then you'd also have to count how many are still whole that come out, so how many actually get absorbed by the
Yeah, no, you can go into the digestive aspect of it, or otherwise just the sheer number. How many times did you pick it up? You could watch them, I guess. I haven't often seen them pick up two at one time.
I've seen them load their trunk with
They just like a pea shooter.
And also with the big doom palm fruits, they do the same.
Yeah. But they eat literally, maybe not one elephant, probably even, I was going to say tons of it.
2-minute periods, see how many thousands is now.
Yeah.
Try and extrapolate. 5-minute period.
All the times those ears are moving. We'll keep our eyes open. It's also a good chance that this guy might, during the course of the afternoon, work his way down to the waterhole. Doesn't look like he's been for a mud bath or a drink yet today. It's being as hot as it is, he probably will at some stage go to cool down a bit. Spray some mud or water over his ears. Hello Mario, always nice to hear new names. Mario is asking whether this elephant is in must. That's the word used for when they're in that sort of mating state or mating condition, if you want, where the testosterone levels go up quite a lot. And Mario, not always, but they often can be a bit more aggressive. It's not always the case. Yesterday, when was it? I can't remember. Yesterday's drive, I sat with an elephant bull the day before yesterday, Saturday maybe. We sat with an elephant bull that was in full must. He was quite relaxed. We sat next to him and spent quite a bit of time with him. So it's not always that they're more aggressive, but they can be. Their testosterone levels go up 6-7 times normal, so easily understood. But this guy isn't. In terms of his age, late 20s maybe, if that, mid-20s. I don't think much more than that. Which also then suggests that he's unlikely to be in must for more than maybe a week or two a year. Elephant bulls go into must for longer and longer periods of time the older they get, the more dominant they get. So your really big bulls can be in must for 3 or 4 or 5 months of the year, whereas young bulls in their 20s maybe only for a week or two. Let's leave him for a bit. I'm going to continue on. We are going to be back in this area again later on, and maybe a little bit of luck we can catch him if he heads down to the waterhole. It's always nice to see Ellie's at the water. Takes just 1.5 via Zoe's Road, just on the northern side of that clearing, joining Marulas, and I haven't heard anyone else. Probably being a check for those Ngala.
I don't know if there's two all up on
okay, copy, thanks. Yeah, I'm going to do Zoe's Road and then maybe down towards Treehouse Dam and then back towards Gowrie later on. Always. Pieter and Mario, always welcome to ask questions. Mario is from Germany, and Brenda is also new on drive with us. And speaking of that, Daryl, or mostly known as Daz, I think by his friends, Daz, how's it? Daz was asking about fires, if we ever have fires here. Daz, yeah, not this time of year so much, typically more into winter time when the bush is very dry. Now, all of those of you that haven't been coming on drive with us for very long, you've only seen this place during summer when it's green and lush and beautiful like this, and it looks very different in winter. It's still beautiful, but the colors are totally different. It all goes very, very brown and beige and yellow. You can start seeing it a little bit with the heat we've had before the rain. There's a bit of yellow in the grass now, but it goes totally brown and beige, and then towards the very end of winter and sort of early spring,